Good afternoon, everybody. Sorry for the slight late start. We had a small streaming issue, but thanks for joining us anyway. Should all be fixed now. So if you're joining us on YouTube from our normal live streaming location, then you can still interact. You can still ask a question. Just put a question down in the comments, and then that will come straight through to us as well. Slightly different location, as you've probably guessed. So today I'm at the Fuji House of Photography, which you can actually see behind. And there's James just to my left, and then Brandon, who's sitting in for us today to be our star model. So the plan is to take you through a tethered workflow. Let me just bring up the agenda. That will be the easiest thing. So the whole point of this broadcast is really just to take you A to B through setting up a session, doing some time-saving stuff like setting up session templates, which we look into, looking a little bit into the workflow. We will look at Capture One Live, which if you haven't seen is our online collaboration platform. So I can show you very briefly how that works as well. We've got a couple of new features to show you, snap to eye and retethering as well. And we'll look at some other tethered features if there's time, which is live view and also exporting as well. So it's going to be a pretty busy session. As I said, I'm at the Fuji House of Photography, which is in London. If you haven't visited, that's it just above me. It's in Long Acre, right in the centre. Really good space, great studio, which they've allowed me to borrow for this hour. And yeah, pop by if you are passing. Right, so first thing I'm going to talk about before I actually take some pictures is just basic things like connectivity. So if I just bring up Safari for a second, because some of the main issues that we always encounter when people are talking about tethering is generally the connection has dropped, or I can't get a connection, and so forth. So there's a couple of things you need to consider. So first is really the cable. So you need a decent quality cable and also the length of the cable. Yes, there are extremely long cables out there which do work, but you just need to keep in mind, is there enough power on my system to maintain the USB connection if I'm using a 10-meter cable or something like that? So if you've gone out and got yourself a 10-meter cable and it's not connecting, try a shorter one. In theory, the maximum length of a USB-C cable is 3 meters, but generally we can go longer than that. But a good troubleshooting point is just to try and use a shorter cable, see if you get connection. If a longer cable doesn't connect, then you could also look into using something like a powered USB hub, which just gives you a bit more stable power supply. At the other end of the connection, I've failed today to actually remember to bring a few of these things, but on the camera end itself, there's a few products out on the market. This one is from Tethered, which is like a Arca compatible clamp, which fits on the bottom of the camera. And that just protects your cable a little bit. So that's one from Tetherblock. If you're in the UK and also in the US, there's actually this nice system by Photo Fortress, which means you can actually leave that block on the bottom of the camera and just kind of be able to attach and remove your camera quite nicely. We've got some links for these as well. So we're trying to drop those in the chat. So you know where to find them. And then also perhaps if you're in the US, there's a new one. I haven't tried this one myself, from 9V, which makes tether cables and other accessories as well. And that's quite a nice system which bolts onto the bottom of the camera as well. There's also the simple little jerk stopper from Tethered Tools as well, which is just like a small attachment that takes some tension off the cable. It's pretty expensive to repair tether ports in cameras. USB-C is not, if you like, the most best engineered solution in the world. The plug itself doesn't fit massively, deep into the camera itself. Hang on, where's my camera? There. So there is some tension, there is some movement. So any way that you can secure that really helps. So pay attention to length of cable, connection on either end. Make sure you use a decent quality cable. If you still getting connectivity issues, reach out to us on support. We can diagnose it. 99% of the time we can come to a really fast solution. So everything should work super nicely. All right, now today we are actually tethering with a cable, as I spoke about, but you can also, if you wish, tether wirelessly for some camera systems. Now, every camera manufacturer does that a little bit differently, whether it's Sony, Canon, Nikon, Fuji, and so on and so forth. So for me to show you how to wireless tether with, a Canon R5 or a Fuji XH2 or whatever, which we've got here today too, then there's not much point. So what I would recommend you to do is go to our support site, into the Learning Hub, and then if you scroll down, sorry, not the Learning Hub, into the user guide, that would make more sense. And if you scroll down, down here, you will find a whole category on tethered capture and a whole category on wireless tethering. And you can see the various different setup guides there as well. So if you do want to shoot wireless, then yeah, you can absolutely go for that. I mean, the caveat is if you want to have speed and stability, go for a cable. If you want to have the freedom of moving around, then you can go wireless. But there's also actually a cool functionality called ReTether, which we'll look at a bit later as well. All right, that's enough of the boring stuff. Let's dive into Capture One. You can see a lovely test shot of Brandon for a second, but we're going to shoot something much nicer in a minute. I'm going to shut this down and we're going to talk about file management very briefly. And a number of things that we're going to do in the next 5 or so minutes. Don't think, oh my God, I have to do that every single time. We are going to create a template for this, which means you can set it up instantly straight away. So the idea being that everything you see here is repeatable and simply set up with something called a session template. So let's go ahead and say File, New Session. And we're going to call this Fujifilm House of Photog, or House of Photo. I'll just abbreviate it a bit. And we're going to say OK, and this opens up a brand new session. Now, if you're not aware of what the session workflow is, I'm going to right click here and then show you how exactly this looks in the Finder. So the most basic session workflow you can have are these 4 folders: Capture, Output, Selects, and Trash. And you can see them reflected over here in the first tool tab of Capture One. So Capture, Output, Selects, and Trash. The idea being, if I am to connect a camera and shoot into Capture One, everything goes to the Capture folder. When I export, they go to the Output folder, this one here. I can use this Selects folder to move pictures in there for the selects, and then the trash is obviously all the stuff you want to delete goes in there. So that is the most basic setup. But a lot of you do something maybe a bit more involved than that. Perhaps you're doing 3 different looks throughout the day, or you want to keep a folder just to dump the lighting setups, and then you want to separate the different looks or different shots you're doing throughout the day. So what we're going to do is we're going to expand this session, and we're going to make a couple of other capture folders. Let's just fix the spelling on that one. So I'm going to go with just 3 shot folders like this: shot 1, shot 2, and shot 3. And what we want to do to make sure Capture One is aware that those additional folders exist is drag them over into session favorites. And all session favorites is telling Capture One, look, you've got the 4 standard folders you know about, and I've also created these additional shot folders too. If you want, you can also make one called Test or Lighting Setup, just so you can have a place where you can dump all the kind of crappy stuff, like so. So now I've got my 4 shot folders set up: shot 1, shot 2, shot 3. On a PC, you can't do that drag and drop. So what you're going to need to do is use the plus button and just add those manually as a session favorite. So now I've got this session set up. I also want to target which one of these I want as my capture folder. So when I connect a camera and take a picture, where do I want the pictures to go? So I'm going to right click and say I want this one to be my capture folder. So I'm going to set that as my capture folder. You'll see a little camera icon pop up here indicating that is your capture folder. And just a point that these buttons here, these are actually a shortcut. So if I click on capture folder, I'm actually looking at the one that I designated as my capture folder. So later on, as we start to shoot with James later, then I at some point can always switch my capture folder back and forth like so. So let's go for setting that one as the capture folder. Now, as I said, this is something we only want to do once, so we template this so we can keep it nice and simple for the next time. So another thing I want to set up is how my pictures are named. So in our Tether tool tab, this has all the various different items that we need for tethered capture, and a few others as well. I've added a couple of things in here which you'll see later. But next capture naming, by default, it will use the name that you gave of your session and the counter in the camera. That's not a particularly useful naming convention. The reason why I say that is because you can run into a situation where you might have duplicate naming, and we want to have unique naming. We want to make sure that in 2 years' time, we don't end up with a bunch of images that have the same name. So what I prefer to do, if we click on this little dot here, this opens up our naming format editor, if you like. And how the naming formats are created is based on using tokens. And tokens are simply something that grabs a little piece of data, which could be today's date, or it could be the name of the camera or the camera model or something like that, and then builds that into a naming convention. So I'm going to get rid of all this, and I'm going to use this token down here called document name, which sounds very unintuitive, but that's the name of my session. So it's going to put Fuji House of Photo. Then I want to have my underscore, and then I'm going to use this one called collection name, which might sound a little bit odd, but that's also the folder that I'm shooting into. So you see shot 1 has popped up. Then if you want to, you could have today's date. I'll just keep it simple and throw in a counter. And 1 digit isn't very useful because that will only give us 9 pictures before it rolls over. So let's go for a 4-digit counter. So now I've got my document name, the collection that I'm shooting into, and my counter name, like so. So if I say OK on this, then that sets up my naming convention. So you'll see, if I just drag this next capture naming out for a second, and then if I click into shot 2, you'll see immediately that changes over to shot 2. And then if I go to shot 3, that immediately changes over to shot 3. The idea being is that you can move through your different shot folders and you don't have to remember to update the naming. So this way it's all nice and automatic. So if you need to switch between those shot folders, let's say you need to, I don't know, go back and shoot a few more of your second look, then that way the naming is already automated. And let's do one other thing. Let's set up a smart album. So a smart album populates itself based on some search criteria, which could be something really simple, like having a green tag, which is what I'm going to do now. So we're going to say preset-wise, anything with a green tag gets automatically sorted into that folder, and then we're going to call this green tag, whoops, not quite, green tag images, and say OK. So now in our green tag images, any pictures that we go ahead and tag green are going to sit in there automatically. And that's something we do as we go through the shoot as well. All right, so let's put next capture naming back, and then I'll show you how we can save this as a template so you never have to do this again, because that's the idea, that this kind of setup we automate or we preset so that when you sit in front of Capture One and you want to start shooting, you can pick from any number of templates. So I'm going to go ahead and say File, down here, Save as Template. So let's call this, I've got a bunch of other ones in there, so let's call this a 3-shot tethered, whoops, tethered shoot, like so. So now that's our template set up. So how would this actually work? So I'm going to close this session down. Let's actually just delete this session that we made earlier, like so. And then in Capture One, same thing again, new session. And we call this Fuji House of Photo. And before I say OK, you'll note under here it says template blank. So when it's blank, it will just do exactly that. Use no template, just do the most default basic session. So if I go here and choose 3-shot tethered shoot, like so, and say OK, then what happens is, if we look in the library tool, it's made my setup shot 1, shot 2, shot 3 folder. It's designated shot 1 as the capture folder. We've got our green tagged images in there as our smart album. And then under here on our next capture naming, if we look here or expand it out, you can see it's set up our next capture naming too. So all of that annoying heavy lifting stuff is done by default. Now there's nothing to stop you setting up a bunch of different templates. You'll see here I've got a 5-shot 1, a 2-shot 1, wedding session template. We've got a headshot setup and so on. So you can have as many of those different templates as you wish, and they can be as expansive or as simple as that. All right, I need to check my notes in case I've forgotten anything else. So we've done that. Oh yeah, let's start this sharing with Capture One Live as well. So Capture One Live, and I'm going to give you a link or put a QR code on screen that you can see, which allows you to see this shoot also online. So the purpose of Capture One Live is to give someone that you're working with the ability to review remotely or even in the studio at the same time. And all they need to do is have, a web connected device, tablet, laptop, iPhone, doesn't matter. And then they will be able to follow the shoot as it happens. So if I go to share online up here, and let's see, and it depends if we're allowed to share. Yep, there we go. So I'm going to share all my session favorites. So that's shot 1, shot 2, shot 3, so that you guys watching online can actually flip between those folders and see how that goes as well. So I'm going to share all my favorites, like so, and then we're going to say share and manage access, and then I'm just going to give you guys the ability to view. If hundreds of you are all tagging, rating and commenting at the same time, it's going to get messy. So I'm just going to say view only and say copy that share link. Now very quickly, hopefully in the background, I'm going to go ahead and create a quick QR code. I would have set this up beforehand, but it's difficult because I wanted to show you the actual session setup. So that's given me that. And if I drag and drop this QR code, you won't see anything right now. Whoa, that's a little bit big. Let's make that smaller. Let me just grab that corner because no one's going to be able to scan that easily. And then I'll just put this up on screen. And then that will give you access to the Capture One Live session. So if you've got, a mobile phone or something like that, I'm just going to verify with my mobile phone right here, just using my camera. And let's go to that. And right now it's empty because we haven't shot anything. So for now, it'll take a little while for that to kick in. But if I go back to Capture One, just want to make sure I've also got the right QR code as well. Oh, actually, that was the wrong QR code. Hang on. Just check in which one it is. It is this one. Okay, I'd put an old QR code up there. That'll teach me. Right, let's give you the right QR code. So UFXG. And then, good job I verified with my mobile phone before everybody started checking and saying it wasn't working. Right, let's put that up in the top corner. I'm going to check that again. And we shall see. Nice. So there's our session. Nothing has been shared yet, but if you guys want to scan that, then you'll be able to see that shoot coming on as well. I'd recommend you would watch the live stream though in favor, but just so you get an idea of how Capture One Live works, you can pick that up. I'm going to make that a bit smaller so it's not obscuring Capture One, but that's just going to sit there up in the corner and you can start if you wish. Awesome. Right. Time to take some pictures, I think, James. So let's get a few shots into our session. I'm shooting into shot 1 folder as designated by that. You can see it's been shared. That's what the little 2 dudes are hanging around there. You can see our camera is connected. We're working with the new GFX 100 Mark II and a 55 1.7 lens, right. So crack off a couple of shots and then we can grey card it as well. Oh yeah, always good to have flash. Nice one. Tim, you're asking if I can place the link in the comments. Let me go ahead and do that as well. So I'm just going to grab that generic link. And then let's put that also in the comments. Hopefully this should come through to you. Nice, okay. So you've got the comments there as well. And you should be able to see, if you look at the shot 1 folder, if I just hold up, you see there's Brandon popping in nicely as well. Awesome. So the next thing I want to show you, that's great, James. Can we throw in a grey card quickly? Yeah. And then we can talk about an important part, which is next capture adjustments. Okay. Nice one. All right. So if I go over to adjustments and grab my white balance picker over here, let's just click on the grey card and that gives us our white balance. Obviously you can adjust to taste as well. And then the whole general process of how Capture One works is with next capture adjustments, copying from last. So whatever we do to this shot, so let's just do a little bit of adjustments. So I'm going to add in a bit of contrast and clarity, like so. And let's throw in a little bit of a vignette. And we put that down. Otherwise, looking good. So now, James, if you crack off a few more shots as well, all of those adjustments that that I've just done, will then follow along as well. You can shoot nice and quick as well if you want, just to show you speed-wise. So you can see those adjustments coming in as it's shot, like so. So that is the default behavior within next capture adjustments. Again, if you go to Capture One Live, I can actually show you, in case you haven't bothered to have a look, let's just copy that share link and go over to Safari for a second. If I paste that link in, what you'll see down here on the left-hand side is the browser, so you can see the various different folders, and there is all of the Brandons coming in, like so. And if I'd given you access to star rate and color tag, then you'd be able to, your collaborator will be able to change rating and color tag at the bottom of the screen here, and that comes straight through back to Capture One. Now, Capture One doesn't have to be running. You can kill Capture One, you can send that live link to your collaborator, they can go ahead and do their color tagging, star rating, and so on, and as soon as you start Capture One, that will all fly back in. So everything will get updated straight away. Good question from Ryan there, I saw. He said, is there anything can be done to make it so to those viewing the live view can't save the images? They can screenshot, of course. I mean, hopefully your clients wouldn't do that, but it is possible that they will also screenshot. What you can do is apply a watermark. So in your export recipes, if any of those are set up to have a watermark, then you can apply that to the pictures which show up in the live Capture One Live collection. So one thing you could do is just have, you know, a not for use splattered across the whole picture, stick a big watermark over it, and so on and so forth. But yes, they can still screenshot. They are not, I mean, if you guys have a play around in live as well, they're not the highest resolution. We're just uploading a small preview. It's not the raw file. It is color managed, so you'll see if we go to, this is shot number 12. So if I go back into Capture One and find shot number 12 for a second, let's just make this black and white as an example, because that's an obvious change. So if I enable that as black and white, and you'll see straight away that updates in Capture One Live. So it is giving you a full color managed view in Capture One Live, but it is not the full resolution. But if we just make Brandon a bit kind of darker and more contrastier and so on, like so, then straight away that will update, as you can see, in Capture One Live. Anthony says, is the tethering wired or wireless? So we are currently wired. So the best way to talk about, your choice of whether you want to go tethered wirelessly or with a cable. Wired, it's for speed, reliability, because you'll get up to the GFX 100 actually is one of the fastest tethering cameras you can buy because it has a 10 gigabits per second port. There are a couple of other models too, but which ones escape me. So you can shoot very rapidly even though it's 100 megapixels, but you do need a 10 gigabits per second cable, and they're a little bit hard to find, but there are a few out there. If you're shooting wirelessly, you get the freedom to move around, but you are going to experience, actually James, if you just fire off like a few, bearing in mind we're shooting 100 megapixels raw, just to get the idea of the speed that we can capture. So these are coming in pretty fast and rapid, as I think you'll agree. Also not in focus, that one. Yeah, that'll do, nice one, thanks. So you can see the speed at which it's coming in at, because we've got fast data connection. If you're shooting wirelessly, quality is still the same. Capture One behaves in exactly the same way. The difference will be, of course, that the speed is potentially much, much slower. All the camera manufacturers vary on the speed of their wireless transmission. It could be anything from 3 seconds up to half a minute, depending on the camera model you're using, whether you're shooting JPEG, whether you're shooting RAW, whether it's compressed RAW or uncompressed, and so on and so forth. Yeah. Also, good point by Walt. Regarding watermarks and Capture One mobile as well. You can also shoot tethered to your iPhone or iPad using Capture One mobile. You can also use Capture One Live. So if you want a lightweight tethering solution, just go into your iPad, then you can do exactly the same thing as well. All right, so what is next? Let me just check. Oh yeah, let's look at Snap to Eye. See, this is why I need notes, otherwise I forget all the various different things. This is a new feature in Capture One 16.3, which was out recently. Let's just make this a little bit smaller. So the focus tool, which I've brought out of the main window, now has this additional feature called center to eye or snap to eye. And you'll see a few different options here. We can center to face. I would bring the zoom down a bit if you're going to do that. Or you can center to eye, and we can set that to, let's go to 100%, like so. And what happens is, as we move through the pictures, then it will find the eye straight away. So if you want to check critical focus, then you can do so. And it will also do the same when tethering. Can you just do a couple of shots? Yes. They don't have to be speedy, just snap a couple of pictures in. So as you're shooting, then it's always finding the eye as well. Now, depending on the size of the camera, that's cool, nice one. Depending on the size of the camera, depending on the speed at which you're shooting at, then you'll see exactly like the focus coming in as well. So we can see James, what was going on there, that wasn't sharp, that one's nice and sharp, and so on. Yeah, so it's a super awesome way to just keep that locked on the eye. Another thing which you might find interesting if you're shooting people, let's just have a look at this guy called the focus mask. So the focus mask is an overlay which is a bit like, focus peaking, which you can see inside a camera sometimes. So this will essentially put a mask over the picture where you can see the sharpest point. So here we know it's pretty much bang on focus because if we look at the focus mask, we can see, that's where our plane of focus is, essentially. And then if we go to one which is out of focus, you can see the plane of focus was further behind. If we hide our viewer, which is G on the keyboard by default, I set mine to this little squiggly button, which is the one under the escape key, so I find that a bit easier. And then you can see, if you look at your collection of pictures, where the focus mask is sitting. So it becomes really quick if we make these a bit bigger. Like in a collection of pictures like this, we can pretty much see, all of that is in focus, no problem. And then right away, we can see where the focus mask has slipped back a little bit. This one is probably slightly out of focus, like so. So you've got your snap to eye tool, center to eye. It doesn't matter if eyes are closed, by the way, so it will still pick them up. So you've got your snap to eye tool and then your focus mask tool, which you can see straight away, like so. So a couple of really good options to help you, determine what's in focus at a glance. So from a grid perspective, the focus mask is really handy because it loads pretty instantly too. And then from a single picture perspective, the snap to eye is really, really useful. Good question. Yes, we will come to that. I'll show you right now actually. Is there a way to overlay an image in live view over the live feed for alignment purposes? Yes. So we can do it in live view, and we'll look at live view a bit later because live view is kind of more useful for still setups. But you can overlay, let's just find the tool, overlay tool here. You can overlay the PNG, PDF, JPEG, a TIFF, a raw file if you wish, onto the picture itself to help for composition. So if I go and find some overlays, one second. Overlays, here we go. So let's just grab, what magazine do you want to be in, Brendan? We've got a fake looking GQ magazine, I think. Yeah, GQ, right. I thought I had a GQ one, where's that's gone? Oh well, you can be in Wired magazine, there we go, the next tech giant. So if we drag this on top of the overlay like so, and then we turn that on, then essentially we've got the ability to stick this overlay over the top. So when Brandon is the next tech giant, we can sit him in Wired magazine and see, yeah, exactly how it looks. So pretty nice. Right, we can do that in live view too, and I'll show you where we cover live view off before we finish, don't worry. So let's pull that back out, and then you can turn live view, overlay on and off at will. We can change our opacity. This is a PNG file, I believe, let me check. Yeah, PNG file with transparency, so it means we can, see straight through it. You've got your scale sliders here, or you can drag the corners to make it bigger and smaller. Position-wise, you can use the pan tool here, or you can use the horizontal and vertical sliders. Now, when you come to export, hold this thought, because you can actually export a PSD file with the overlay as well, if you wish to see it. So I'm going to keep that overlay loaded, but I'll just hide it for now. Okay. So right now we've been shooting into our shot one folder. You can see those going up into Capture One Live if you check. We're following next capture adjustments. So anything that we do to one picture is automatically carried over to the next. You can adjust that if you wish. We've got our naming convention set up as well. So far, everything is working exactly as we would expect. Nice and efficient. We've got that template which we can use again in the future. So next thing that we're going to do is look at a feature called ReTether. Now what ReTether allows you to do is shoot tethered, pull the cable, shoot some additional pictures to card, and then when you reconnect the cable, those pictures will then get downloaded into Capture One. Now currently this feature is only available on Canon and Nikon, not because we favor those manufacturers, but purely in terms of being able to implement that. It was the first, easiest and most straightforward ones to do. All camera manufacturers have, a slightly different way of their camera connection protocols. Unfortunately, no two companies do it the same. So what we need to do is then obviously see what we can do with Fujifilm, Sony, other manufacturers, and so on and so forth. So what we're going to do, James, we're going to unplug the Fuji for a second. I'll give you a shout when to shoot, because what I want to do first is, we've got power on there. Oh yeah, switch that over. What we're going to do is switch over to shot number 2 folder, and we're going to right click and we're going to say set that as the capture folder. So now we've shifted over here. Now, what you can do at this point, and there's 2 schools of thought on this, is down to next capture naming. So you see we are currently on picture number 38. Okay, so what you can do is click, let's just move this up a bit so you can see it better. You can click here and you can say reset the capture counter if you wish. So if you want every shot folder to start back at number 1, then you can do so. So if we say reset capture counter, this will then go back to shot number 1. If I go to, where is it? I can't remember, down here. So capture counter under file, this is exactly the same operation, reset that capture counter. The benefit of having it in the menu system is that if you want to, you can set a shortcut for this. If you're unaware how to set shortcuts, if you go to edit, edit keyboard shortcuts, and look for, rather than trying to find it in this incredibly long menu of shortcuts, just search for it. So if I type, if I type capture, then you'll see here we've got, oh hang on, let's try reset. Here we go, reset counter. So if you want to fire a shortcut in there, you can do so. And that means if you want to quickly via a shortcut reset it, then that's the fastest way to do it. You can also set a shortcut for this, set as capture folder. So that's also under file, set as capture folder. You see I've got Shift Command C. So if I go back to shot 1 and do Option Command C, sorry, that will change my capture folder. Option Command C, that will change my capture folder. So if you chain up, Shift capture folder, reset capture counter, then you can do so. I personally know myself very well and know that I would forget to do that on at least 2 or 3 occasions, so I let the counter roll. But if you prefer to start at number 1, that's the way to do it. Right, James, just take one picture for me actually, because I just want to check something. So we're on a longer lens now. And if we look at this particular shot, just be careful when you switch folders, the next capture adjustments will still be recalled. So you see here we've got exposure, clarity, and so on. So as we're on a different camera, I'm going to reset all of that, and we're going to shoot a grey card again, if you don't mind. Let's see, so then we're going to grab our white balance picker, shoot on that, that's better. And then we can do a similar thing. We're going to whack in some contrast, clarity, let's have some vignetting. I prefer this to be a bit cooler, so let's go down a bit. Pull those down, like that. So now we've got some adjustments. So take a few more shots. Yep. Go ahead. Nice. Brilliant. Oh, I meant to have, so we can still see if we bring our focus tool out, there's your capture to eye and so on and so forth, like so. So very nice and easy to see the quick ones without having to zoom in. To be fair, it only takes a second to zoom in anyway, but definitely in terms of high pressure, high volume situations, it's a lot easier to have the focus tool just running like so. So ReTether, let's hide this. So James is gonna pull the plug. Yep. And we're gonna shoot a few more pictures to the memory card. Nice one, that'll do. So the idea of ReTether is that, of course, if you want to pull the plug, maybe you want to have a bit more freedom in the studio. Maybe you don't want the pictures coming in to Capture One straight away if you're not unsure, you know, of the look you're creating, or if you need to pull further back and the cable isn't long enough or go super close. Let's plug this back in. Then the idea is that now the camera is connected, and then, oh, actually, did I not turn it on? This will be a good check. I did that on purpose because we need to check something in here. Save to, right. So first thing you need to do for retethering to work is to say save to the capture card and Capture One itself. And also in the preferences, make sure you have fetch images from card when connecting to USB. So shoot a couple more tethered. My bad, I did that on purpose, of course. So now we're shooting to, oh, we should be, sorry, just go ahead and shoot a few more, James. Okay, so now if we pull the plug, take a few more. I tested this before we went live, trust me. Okay, now we can stuff that back in. Oh, that's it. Yeah. Well, that's annoying because it should be picking up the additional pictures. And my colleague says, just one in preferences. Okay, that's strange because I was trying this exactly before we went live and it was working absolutely perfectly, which is Sod's law, of course. So that's strange. Can I have a look, James? Yes. It's nothing you've done because it, oh, there we go. Now they're coming in. I don't think the cable was quite connected properly. My bad. So now you can see that the pictures came in, but the important part is that you saw that the white balance was off because I don't know what preset I've got in the camera, something obviously very different so you could see the change. So you saw the adjustments came in. So these were the ones that were shot right after this slightly blinky one there from Brandon. So these were the ones that were shot to card, but you notice that the adjustments came in. So exactly the same adjustments. And secondly, our naming convention as well. So without the ReTether feature, what would have happened is, yes, we could have imported them into our session, but they would have had, you know, that wrong color balance because it wasn't set properly. And they would have a different naming convention. So you would have to copy paste the adjustments across and you would have to do a rename as well. So this is a way of just keeping that flowing without having to do any of those things. And just a little update, you don't need to, as my colleague finally informed me, you don't need to change the save to settings in the camera settings, just the one in the preferences. So this one here, fetch images from card when reconnecting via USB. If that is not ticked on, then ReTether is not going to work. And just to reiterate, currently just for Canon and Nikon. Nice. And also another little note, ReTether-like functionality can be achieved by setting USB mode in Fujifilm cameras to USB tether fixed. And you'll have a kind of similar functionality, but not completely identical to ReTether. But it's a super awesome feature. Yeah, so try it out if you're currently shooting with Canon or Nikon. Right, let's unplug the Canon, because we're in the Fuji House of Photography and they might smash it up if if it's connected any longer. Right, okay, question-wise, I think we're doing pretty good at the moment. Just checking through the questions. Yeah, question from Daniel, actually. He was asking, is there any way to default the save to Capture One and CF card in Canon? Every new session I have to configure that. Unfortunately, that's the way the firmware is set up in the Canon at the moment. So when you break the connection, it then resets that to be only, to capture one only. So I'm not sure if there's anything we can do about that in the immediate, but unfortunately that just is the way the firmware is set in the Canon, unfortunately. All right, let's go to shot number 3. We are going to right click, if you remember, and set that as the capture folder. Now the little camera has moved on. In my tether next capture naming, if you remember to do it, you can say reset capture counter, and then that will take that back down to 0. Yeah, let's do a little volley of Fuji shots for us. See, the camera has connected. Nice one. Quality modeling, and you see it is picking up those former capture adjustments as well from the previous shot. So please be aware of that when you switch to another capture folder. Just remember to reset your adjustments if you need to, okay? Right. What's next? Yeah, something that I didn't cover actually earlier on, just so you know, this camera tool here. Oh yeah, thanks. Let's tweak our white balance, that's better. So this camera tool here, anything that you see lit up, then I can change from within Capture One. So if I wanted to tweak the shutter speed, I can just go in here and then move it around. If I want to change the aperture that James is working with, then I can do so as well. Oh, because you're using off the aperture ring,
I'm just going to turn it to C for command.
okay, C for command, and then now you've got control from Capture One itself. So on the Fujifilm lenses you have, yeah, it's a C, yeah, a dial, so the aperture ring has C, which is C for command, yep, and then now we've got that, you know, remote control from Capture One. You might see on some cameras, Sony being an example, is that you can't choose a direct shutter speed. You have to use the plus or minus button because we can only tell Sony to go up or down. We can't pick a particular value. So depending the camera manufacturer you're using, you might see some differences in how this window looks. But safe bet, anything that is lit up that we can manipulate from Capture One. If you prefer, this is actually a super handy feature in terms of battery level. If you right click on your toolbar and say customize, then you should find battery status and you can drop that up at the top, which means you've always got a view of your camera battery level. Now this camera, the GFX, is charging via USB-C, so it's not important because it's always going to be fully charged. If you're using an older camera which doesn't have power delivery on USB-C, this is a really nice way of seeing exactly what your camera battery level is, because if you're not paying attention to the camera tool and you're at 2% or something like that, you don't want it dying in the middle of a shoot and then have to go on and swap. But any of these buttons, yeah, you can click on and then pick and choose exactly what you want to change on the camera itself. If it's a more mechanical camera like, I don't know, like a X-T4 or something like that, and you've got it set with the dials, then you'll be able to see, okay, we're set to like manual mode as an example, but I can't go to aperture priority here because it's a dial on the camera. Nice. Just checking on questions. Nice. Okay, so we've got a few more shots in here. I just have to remember what we want to talk about. Yeah, live view. So obviously if you're doing portrait photography or headshots, live view doesn't make sense. But there was a question earlier asking about overlays in live view. So if I turn on live view, if you just wave it at Brandon like so. Now, if the orientation is wrong, don't worry, because we can actually change it. Whoops, 180, not even 180. Let's try 270. There we are, got there in the end. So you've got your live view call out, and it's a pretty nice frame rate. Again, it depends on the camera to some extent. Obviously, if we were doing still photography, like food photography or something like that, then this obviously makes a lot more sense. You've also got camera focus controls, which is great for dialing in fine focus as well. Live view quality, depending on the camera manufacturer and the age of the camera, is going to vary as well. So if you don't get much of a benefit from seeing on live view, we are grabbing the best quality view that we can. But what we spoke about earlier with the overlay tool, we can still work with the overlay on live view as well. So if you're doing food packaging as an example, or a magazine spread or something like that, then you've got the ability to put your live view on as well. So you've got your camera focus controls, grids and guides. Let's just turn this off for a second. So you've got grids and guides, which you can configure here as well. Your camera focus, live view control. One thing which you might find useful for live view, if you're shooting overhead, then sometimes the camera sensors can get confused, and then this way you can program the default orientation. So if it is flipping around, if your camera's in a weird position, then you can change it. You can shoot while you're tethered as well. Shoot while you're showing live view. So if you want to keep live view running and hit the button, I'm going to take a picture. It's probably not going to be in the right position or focus, but you can keep live view running and take shots as well at the same time. Live view will time out after a predetermined time in the settings. So, which I can't remember where it is. Yep, so live view, not live preview. I thought there was another one for live view timeout. Maybe it's under capture. Oh, live view pause after, so you can change your live preview after a certain amount of time as well, if you wish. I mean, there is some argument that the camera will get warmer because you're constantly dumping the sensor, but I wouldn't worry about it too much. Okay, so I think that's probably what we can do in terms of capturing. So thanks, James. Don't run off, just in case we think of something else. But as you can see, it's pretty simple, to be honest. I mean, even if you treat Capture One in the most simple way with just a basic session, connect your camera and start shooting. But I think all of us benefit from the ability to create these different shot folders, session album, which we're going to have a look at in a second. Oh, let's see how Capture One Live is doing. So if we go back into Capture One Live and look at these different folders, then you can see our shot 1, shot 2 and shot 3 folders like so. So you guys are welcome to browse and have a look around in Capture One Live as well. I will keep this running. If I'd open this up for, well, actually, let's do it. Let's see what carnage awaits when I start to open this up for everybody. So I'm going to say anyone with the link can tag, rate and comment. So let's do that. So if I refresh this, then straight away now you'll see, let's go back to shot number 3. What's this shot? So this is number 5. So if I make this 5 stars and we go back to Capture One Live, you can see instantly we've got 5 stars and I get a notification in Capture One too. So if there we go, there's people in there already messing around. Let's change this to a different color tag. And then now I've got more notifications too, which is pretty nice. What I can also do, let's just go into this picture. I can write a comment and say, wow, this looks nice. Send that. And then if we look at the comments tool, which did I add the comments tool? Maybe not. If you don't see the comments tool in your workspace, add it like so, comments. And then we can see this, wow, this looks so nice. So you get those comments flowing back and forth between Capture One and Capture One Live. And as I said, this does not have to be, Capture One does not have to be open for this to work. So you can finish your shoot, send this over to, thank you Anonymous, send this over to your client, and then they can happily go ahead whilst you shut down, go home for the day, they can do their review part of it, and then you're good to go. So yeah. Capture One Live is available to all of you in Capture One in a restricted version. So if we look at share online, like so, my paid for version, the sessions last for 1 month. So the collection is open on Capture On Live for 1 month until I stop sharing. On the free version, they're only available for 24 hours. So just to point that out. And you can only share one collection at a time. I can share multiple collections across different catalogs and sessions and so on, each lasting up to 4 weeks. And then the free version is just 24 hours and one collection. If I stop sharing, which I won't right now, but when I stop sharing, I'm also emailed the summary of all the comments. So should you stop sharing by accident, but you wanted the comments, they come to you in an email summary. So now we can see, yep, a few people have been going through and changing color tags and so on. So yeah, cool. Glad you've had that experience. Nice. So what I'm going to do though, because I want to demo you something else, I'm going to stop your access, because otherwise the next part of the demo is not going to go well. So that can view only. So now if I refresh Capture On Live, you should find that now you guys are blocked out. Yes. So let's just clear all my comments. And what I want to show you very quickly is just the final part, if you like, the selection process. So I'm going to select all of these and just reset the star ratings and the color tags. So now all my color tags are back to 0. I'm going to open up our focus tool, and then I'm just going to pick a few out of this one. So for color tagging, you can do it the slow way, which is to click here and then decide on your color tag. Or you can do it the speedy way and use a keyboard shortcut. So I'm just going to pick a few out from this one. So let's grab that one as well. My shortcut for green, I think, yeah, is number 7 on my keyboard. Because on a numerical keyboard, I have 7, 8, and 9, green, yellow, red, and 6 to clear it. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for the star ratings. So now if I go back to shot 2, let's just grab, not that one, let's grab this one and one of those. Oh, not that one, let's grab, so these were the Canons, let's grab those 2. And let's go back to shot 1 and let's grab, let's grab 1 or 2 of these. Let's grab this one and that one. So now if I go to my green tag images collection, no, I don't want to do dictation, don't know where that came from. Then I've got all my pictures in a dynamic collection. Now what you can do as an alternative, you can drag and drop pictures into the selects folder. But I prefer doing it this way with using tags or star ratings, because it means if I look at my collection of pictures and then decide, actually, you know, these 2 are really similar, so why have I got 2 that looks the same? I can just press 6 on my keyboard, which would be effectively removing the color tag, and now it's gone from that collection. So I find that, you know, a much, much faster way to select. Whether you want to do that with color tags, star ratings, a combination, I mean, that's completely up to you. Everybody does it in a different way. It would be impossible for me to tell you the right way to do it, because I have yet to meet 2 people who do it in exactly the same way. Some people use 5 stars as a good image, some people use 1 star. It's just all over the place. So you pick the rating system that works best for you. So out of all our Brandons here, these are our final ones that we would like to have. If we want to make a little adjustment, actually, so out of these 3 pictures, they're all a little bit on the bright side, I would say. So to quickly do an edit, there's a really nice function called speed edit. So what speed edit does means you can use any aspect, or sorry, a key push on your keyboard to bind to a particular adjustment. So if I take this finger and hold down Q on my keyboard, you'll see exposure pops up on the bottom of each of one of those. So that's a press and hold. And now if I just grab my cursor and drag to the left on anywhere on the picture, then I can adjust all of those at the same time. So Q does exposure, for example, W does contrast, E does brightness, and so forth. If you want to be reminded what those keys are. If we look at edit keyboard shortcuts, speed edit keys, you can see all the functionality there. So if I wanted to quickly cool all these down a bit, I could hold down 1 and then just drag to the left and tweak my white balance. So it's a really nice, fast, speedy batch edit way of doing things. Cool, so we've got our final pictures and we want to export these out, and this then, ties up our workflow. So let's select all of these and we're going to hit on the export button at the top, and I'll show you just a couple of basic export scenarios that should give you, a really nice, efficient round off to, a shot like this. So if I say export, and then what we have is a number of export recipes here. Now the default ones, I'm going to wipe out some of these basic ones that I've done and then just add what you'll get when you look at Capture One for the first time, or if you haven't done any customization yourself, you're going to see these basic export recipes. So I don't want to export them all different ways, but let's do that. So the whole point of the export recipe and the viewer window itself is that when you click through the recipes, this viewer window is going to show you how that's going to look. So it will resize the picture to whatever dimensions we have set down here in format and size. So let's say we wanted to have a JPEG for web use. I'm going to tick this on. And then if I don't do anything else, this will simply be saved to the session output folder. So let's just export these 9 pictures. So if I export like so, and then we go to our output folder, you're going to see 9 pictures popping in there, exported to 2048 pixels on the long edge, and then I get my notification and I can show where they are in the Finder or Explorer as well. So very simply, that's how those work. Let's just delete all those for a second because we can make this a little bit smarter. So if I say export again, let's say we want to have 2 things. Let's say we want to have a JPEG and we want to have a full-size TIFF at the same time as well. So let's just move these next to each other. So we've got our JPEGs and our TIFFs. The output folder is currently empty. So let's export these 9 pictures once again. So now we've got in my output folder, there's our JPEGs and TIFFs coming in through like so. This is a background task. So you can go ahead, you can carry on shooting. You don't have to sit here and wait for this to finish. So now we've got a JPEG and TIFF of each of our shots. Great. However, this is a little bit messy because our JPEGs and TIFFs are sitting in the same folder. So let's try and make that a bit more sensible. So what we can do in our export is for each of our recipes, ask Capture One to put it in a subfolder. And this could be something you type manually, like I could type something called low res, like so, and then Capture One would make a folder called low res. Or we can automate it using a token like we did with the naming convention. So if I click on this button here, there's a bunch of different tokens, 60 plus, I think, some of which, or most of which, you will probably never use. So if we go ahead and find the one that I was going to show you, is a really simple one called recipe name. So that means it will put it in a folder under the recipe name. So if we do the same for the TIFF process recipe, if you know what it's called, you can just start typing it as a bit of a shortcut, like so. And then now, if I go ahead and export our 9 pictures once more, then you can see we've got our JPEGs and our TIFFs coming into 2 separate folders. Nice. Now I'll show you one final thing, but again, what we're doing here with the export recipes is really just scratching the surface because there's many powerful workflows that you can do for exporting, but we could spend, an hour talking about export, strategies and so on. The final one I'll show you, which I think is probably the nicest, is if you remember, we shot into 3 different folders. So we had shot 1, there's shot 3, we've got some shot 2s, and we've got, shot 2, shot 3, and shot 1s. So we've got pictures here, all from different folders. What would be nice on our export recipe is if that we could divide them up. Let's do the JPEGs first, into the folders that they were captured in. So our shot 1s go into the shot 1 folder, our shot 2s go into the shot 2, and so on. So what we can do is use this slightly strange token called session subpath, which doesn't sound very intuitive, but essentially what we're saying is look at where the picture is sitting and recreate that destination in the output folder. So that would be our shot 1 folder, shot 2, or shot 3. And then to improve this even more, I'm going to do a / and then use that recipe name token again as well. So we're going to have both. And we do the same for the TIFF. We do session subpath / recipe name, like so. And we do one final thing for the naming. Where is naming? Naming is here. I'm going to do a hyphen and type recipe name as well. So I know just by looking at the picture how it's been exported. And we do a final thing, recipe name. Don't worry if this is a bit fast. Watch the recording so you can copy the steps. But you'll also find it written out online as well on our support site. So we've got JPEG and TIFF going to be put into the folders that they belong in as they're named. Also sorted by the kind of recipe they are as well. So if we just clear those and then say export, have I emptied this out? Yes, and say export 9 images, then you'll see we've got shot 1 coming in, shot 3. Oh, you can see the export dialog is there. So under shot 1, we've got our JPEGs and TIFFs. Under shot 2, our JPEGs and TIFFs. Under shot 3, JPEGs and TIFFs. And then the JPEG is named JPEG for web use, and the TIFF is named as the recipe, like so. So rather than having to manually create those 3 folders and 2 additional folders in each one, it's all done automatically. And hopefully should save you a heap of time as well. That's it. I think that's pretty much where I came to end in, if you like, an A to B workflow. Go back and watch the recording on YouTube, I think would make sense. All of these steps are designed to be more efficient, like setting up the session template, setting up your naming convention, getting Capture One Live running at the start so you don't have to worry about that later. So everything is uploading to the cloud as you shoot. The export recipes that we looked at, again, that's just scratching the surface of what's possible, but I hope you see the value in that efficiency. And in terms of the pure tethering tools, don't forget you've got your camera control available, your snap to eye for focusing, retethering as well if you wish. Good thing to mention, my colleagues Helen and Victor, sorry I forgot to say hello to Helen and Victor who have been answering in the comments. That's not me doing it as well. But there is a really good offer at the moment for Black Friday, which has been running this week and will extend over the weekend as well. So, sorry, let me put that up again. Helen and Victor, maybe if you could put that link back up in the comments again as well. Actually, it's already on there, so you should be able to find it. But bit.ly, C1 Black Friday, you should find that. So just go ahead and take advantage of that Black Friday offer. There was a question here from Unbox, South Africa. Hi, Unbox. Yeah, no, you're exactly right. You can extend cables to pretty good long length. So if you're using decent cables with decent extenders, like Unbox mentions, yes, you can go 10 meters, 20 meters, no problem whatsoever. If you're just buying a standard cable, if you like, then you need to be obviously a little bit more careful about maximum lengths. And Anthony, I think you asked, would the speed of my connection suffer, or the speed of transfer, if I'm using a low rate cable? I mean, I think I've got one in my did have a low rate cable. So this is a USB-C cable, like so. So it's USB-C, USB-C. Oh no, this one isn't, but I've got one that looks exactly like this kind of thinness compared to if we look at this Tether Tools cable. This will just about tether the camera, but in terms of the speed of transfer is just, yeah, pitiful. So you do need to invest in decent cables. You know, you've got Tether Tools, you've got 9-volt empirical, Area 51, Luna, which is a company I was just made aware of recently as well. So you've got choices in terms of where you can source decent cables. On the YouTube recording in the next couple of days, I'll drop some links of some of the products that we spoke about today, so you can investigate for yourself. But definitely decent cable and some way to, you know, secure it at the camera end as well. So those other products that I showed that kind of have this ability to strap the camera to the cable to the bottom is actually well worth it, because USB-C, it's not the biggest, you know, deepest port in the world. So there is some tension on there, especially if you're moving around. Someone steps on the cable, invariably that causes tension on the port. So anything you can do to, you know, prevent that and to avoid a hefty service bill is definitely warranted. Nice one. I think that's it for today. So thanks for your attention. So sorry for those of you who, or that we were a bit late to the stream, but I'm glad you caught up with us in the end. And I hope that was useful. What I'll do in terms of the agenda, in the next few days, it might not be tomorrow, I will split up the video into different chapters. So if you want to go straight ahead to Snap to Y or whatever, then you can do so. So it might not be there tomorrow, but it will be there at least, you know, Monday, Tuesday next week, so you can always skip ahead. Nice one. Thank you very much. Well, thanks to James over here and Brandon as well. Thanks for shooting. It's pretty difficult to do all of this myself. So thanks for joining me today and yeah, doing a great job. So thanks again, everyone. Cheers. See you all later. Bye now.